Hello, 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 everybody. Let me just move Bob over to one side there. There we go. As people start coming in, welcome to today's live stream. We are painting the Protoss in a 12-hour challenge. So if you have a look at Artanis there, you can see he has got his shade on at the minute, so that is drying. Hello, Jack. You well? Yeah, obviously I've been keeping my Discord up to date, so if you do want to join our Discord, have a look at our Patreon. Today is a very, very special day. Not only are we painting up our Protoss, but it's also the first day of which I've applied for YouTube Partner Program. So we made the thresholds for the first tier of YouTube Partner, so that's good. Everything's going well in that regards. In terms of this, we are 3 hours and 39 minutes in. So we do have, I say, about 8 hours. I'm hoping to get this done early because I need to edit all of this. And to be honest, I don't have the time. So the more I can do now, the better. So look, all sound, paint my Terminator, hoping to be on to the last one today. Yeah, good. Also, post them in the community tab as well. You know what to do. So when you have got to a point where you're happy with them, get them on there. Again, the more people post on there, I think the better. It's just nice to have an active community. So yeah, plus I like looking at what you guys are all doing as well. And it's better than me going, here's my Instagram, go post it on there or tag me. YouTube is very good at bringing a community together. So just to update you all as to where we are in terms of miniatures, I have gone through all of the bases. So we have this base here, and you can see we have the sandy nature to it, but we've added a lot of like green in as well. That is through watered down Militarum green. So if ever you play on any of the Starcraft maps, they're not like you would see with like Warhammer, where everything's dusty and barren. Even if they are a little bit barren, there's also life and vegetation and stuff like that that regularly exists. I'm just going to add in, I'm just going to demonstrate the pylon being sat on top of here. So if you can see that, let me just hold it down a little bit. So you can see how that's blending in. We've got a burnt patch of grass where one of the lightning bolts is landing. And we do have like stones and stuff like that to paint in the blue sections. So it's really interesting. It's like an anti-gravitic effect. So there's bits where we have to paint rocks in amongst the blue to create that immersion of everything's floating because the power is overwhelming. All of my StarCraft fans out there, hopefully you all have every single like cheat code to hand. If you can do like the one that makes me build things instantly or paint things instantly, that would be wonderful. Need to get them done for the big stuff arrives. Yeah, congratulations on your repulsor. When that comes, that's going to be amazing. Honestly, one of the best looking, I say one of the best looking tanks in Warhammer. There are a lot of good tanks in Warhammer. But for Space Marines, with the massive turret, with the relatively like narrow chassis, I mean, it's still like Land Raider sized, but with a massive turret on top of it. It is a pretty cool tank. So I am basically going to be cracking on with these guys. I reckon I've got 11 more of these golden boys to paint or to shade. I reckon it's going to take me roughly another 2-ish hours. And after that, we're going to dry brush everything, or we're going to mask everything. It will be at a point where I won't be live streaming at that stage. I might be able to come on for a live stream a little bit later, but essentially for now, we have roughly an hour and a half or so where I can respond to questions and things like that. And we can all have a little chat and a paint up together. So yeah, the idea is I will have to do some cutting segments. I mean, I might be able to record stuff whilst I'm here, but not to the main camera because you guys are on it. So yeah, it should be good fun. So how many of you guys are currently painting your StarCraft miniatures? How many of you are painting Warhammer miniatures? Looking at you there, Jack. What have you all got currently in your list to paint up? Because for me, as you can see, I am painting currently a Sentry. So we have this little weird boy. Just get my face out of shot there. There we go. So we are going really heavy with Drakenhof Nightshade. It is a rich, bluey black ink. But it means that the metal afterwards, the gold, looks tarnished, which is the effect that we're going for. We want our Protoss to look like the ancient race that has been fighting for millennia. So that's the goal. I think we're going to achieve it quite nicely. Looking at it, this doesn't also just like add a little bit of like shading into like the recesses. This changes the tone of the metal as well. So it's a really, really useful shade paint. So with very little effort, the plan is to get this gold done so that we can focus on things like additional elements to the armor, whether it's adding like blue details. Again, kind of looking at like the multiplayer style of StarCraft, where your miniatures have, you know, like a, so the words I'm looking for, like a pattern for whichever group that you decided to be. So you're the red Protoss or the teal Protoss, and you know, that kind of style. That's what we're aiming for, and we should be able to achieve it. I don't think there's going to be anything stopping us on this. Even time-wise, 12 miniatures, trying to break down everything into its like quickest components, i.e. once we've done this, we're going to dry brush the golds. That's going to make our life really easy to get these miniatures over the line. I seriously can't see us struggling at that. He says at this point, maybe give me another 4 hours to regret my decision-making. But certainly in terms of like color, this gold is going to be beautiful. This is a blue ink, so this going anywhere near the regular clear blue plastics doesn't negatively impact them. It's actually a not, I won't say it's a positive. I wouldn't particularly want to put this over there, but it doesn't like ruin it or change the color of the blue. So there are elements where I can go in, and it might darken it a little bit, but it's fine. With any of these clear paints, or sorry, these clear plastic elements, having a little bit extra depth to them or adding a little bit of a darker shade, it just changes the way it reacts to light. It doesn't really, you know, ruin the feature or the effect. So just getting our brush into any nook and cranny. Hello again, Coffee and Hobby. I hope you're well. Again, this is a bit of a paint stream, so I will be going through the comments and stuff. Please do keep like sending me stuff, but I am in a challenge as well. So if I do like, if it does take me a couple of minutes to get back to comments, don't hate me for it. Let's have a look. Hey everyone, hi y'all. I do really want to thank you for talking to me last night and listening to me. It did help. Good, I'm glad. Again, any creative endeavor, and I mean any creative endeavor, is a very difficult undertaking. It lacks funding, everything like that. I mean, this is all self-funded. I've had probably the worst financial year of my life. And certainly, you know, the money that's gone into this is for a long-term future, being able to, you know, enjoy doing this kind of thing all the time. I want to make things for people. And, you know, I'm obviously an entertainer through the acting side of life. So, yeah, I hope this year is going to be, you know, a good year. Certainly, we've done all the monetization or the first initial stage of YouTube partner paperwork today before we started the challenge. So it's a really big day for me, actually. So I hope that, you know, your world looks up as well. Because, again, you know, my success isn't your failure and your success isn't my failure. We can all, you know, grow and you know, learn and everything like that together. There is no reason why anyone else's success is, you know, a negative impact on anyone else here. All right, so I'll look through and catch up. Still waiting on my StarCraft order to arrive. Where are you from, Nemesis? I'm presuming either States, or is it a bit too late to be in Australia or New Zealand at this time? Quite possibly. If you can hear a little fan going as well, We are currently at 30.5 degrees Celsius in here. It is warm, and that's my fan. So just a small fan. I don't need a big one. Plus, the other ones are being used in the house for the animals, which they are more important than I am anyway. So, you know, they get the treat of that. USA. Yeah, at least you know, I think the last time I checked, and it seems to be going up constantly on the Archon Discord, there are shipments that are in port. So hopefully they're not too long now. It is a bit of a faff, and I think the problem is with the US and Australia, the shipping is one thing. I think the problem is going to be wave 2 is literally going to be on your doorstep immediately after. And I don't think anyone particularly is like, yeah, let's get more whilst I've got 9,000 million miniatures to paint. So it's a bit of a tricky situation for Archon because they can't just delay it. There's a lot of things in motion for the rest of the waves, but equally for us as the consumer, I don't think it's the best strategy, but hey, you know, they've got bigger fish to fry at the minute. The main thing is it should hopefully be here this month. So I'll go through. Right now I'm working on some third-party Space Dwarves and 90s era Saurus minis. I've never played Saurus, so it'd be interesting to see what they look like. Dark Pact is sending me a Space Marine Tactical Squad, a Dakar rig, and a Tau Combat Patrol. That's really cool. So I tend to work with War Office, which is based in Rochdale. Currently trying to convince Andy, who owns the shop there, to order in the Starcraft minis. I think he was concerned that there would be a minimum order for Archon because he's ordered things like dungeons and lasers from them and stuff like that before. So I did ask Jarek on the Discord if that was something that existed for the Starcraft one, or if that's something that they can work on so that people can get access to their miniatures in smaller batches whilst this game continues to grow, which hopefully it's looking like that's a possibility. So I just want to show you not a before and after, but a side-by-side between this century and one that's not been touched up. So any of you that are looking to paint your StarCraft minis, this is a really good spot for you to be able to go, oh, this is a good technique or a bad technique, whether it suits your likes or not. So we have, obviously, this one here is just sprayed in Gauntlet Gold. This one here is Gauntlet Gold, but we've gone over it with Darko Flesh. There we go, just make sure that's in focus. So you can see how the tone of the metal changes entirely. It looks tarnished, it looks worn, a little bit battered. So the idea is all of these need to look like veterans of, you know, long wars, be it with themselves or whatever. I'm not entirely sure how long a Protoss lives for, but I presume quite a long while. Certainly counting in the hundreds of years, if not thousands. So I want that to reflect in their armor. It's either passed down or it's something that, you know, they wear with pride. They wear every dent with pride, and every you know bit of damage they have is a lesson that they've learnt. So that's kind of the idea with this. I want this to be an ancient-looking force, so they feel as elite as they are. And I'm just having to hold this right now because I don't know what bit's dry enough to put down. In fact, actually, that top section seems to be dry enough now. I'm just going to place that down and hope that that doesn't go anywhere. Let's have a look. We'll just move back a little bit so you can see me. Obviously, my MacBook is there, which has all the live chat on it. So if you see me looking off to the side, that is literally what I'm doing. For you guys, though, I'll obviously talk to camera. So look, aside from those and Spearhead box, I plan to buy soon, and aside from those and a Spearhead box, I plan to buy soon. I don't know. My birthday is coming Tuesday. Lord knows what my family has up their sleeves. Well, happy birthday for starters. Obviously, Warhammer is an amazing game. I love Warhammer. I've played it since I was a kid. I played StarCraft as a video game as a kid, and these miniatures coming out are exceptional. So if it was on your list, pre-orders, I think, go up on the 24th of August, and have a happy birthday for Tuesday as well. So congrats on YouTube partnership as well. Thank you, Jack. Yeah, it's been 8 months of highly focused, like picking apart like what works, what doesn't work. It has been very tricky, but also incredibly rewarding. Any of you speak to Jack, like he's been here since I think it was the first couple of weeks. Like, yeah, again, thank you, Jack. Always appreciate you. And the community has continued to grow and grow and grow. So this is the most rewarding part of my job, like by far away. And it's weird that I've not done live streams since March, because actually doing live streams now is like I've missed this interaction and this back and forth. Whereas me doing like videos like this, I'm obviously doing highly detailed shots. I'm making sure that I get several angles when I'm recording everything, all that kind of stuff, all the good detail work that I would expect from a video that I want to watch. But obviously I'm in a room. There's no one else here to bounce off of. So everything comes from me. So it's actually really nice to be able to do this stream and to be able to talk to you all. And again, this is the third one in like this week. So I hope you're all really enjoying it. Hopefully soon. Yeah, they won't be long. They really won't. First 3 containers are on the train. Excellent. That's what we like to hear. Archon noted that Wave 2 is needed to make the game better gameplay-wise. Yeah, it kind of makes sense. At the minute, we don't really have like the big miniatures that can come on turn 2 or turn 3 and 4. So I think siege tanks are going to be incredible and a little bit possibly game-breaking. We'll see. Immortals are going to be amazing, and Ravagers are going to be annoying. Like my Zerg force is basically my opposition force, so the Ravagers are just going to be me bullying myself when I'm doing test games. But I might, also take a few out to have a good game. Congrats with the YouTube partnership. Thank you. With partnership requires doubling next year. I've just kind of stopped majorly striving for it. I think in terms of watch hours and stuff like that, it is very daunting. It's 100% going to completely remove the motivation for a lot of creators. It is a shame. At the same time, it's not impossible to do. Don't look at it as like it's not achievable. Find what's working with your videos and keep pushing up that angle. Again, things like this where we get to have like conversations together, build up your community and be able to actually like speak to people, because it's the best part of this job. It really is. My birthday is Tuesday too. Look at that. See, happy birthday as well, Jack. And yeah, what are you getting apart from a tank and a dreadnought? I get you. Grab something to set the mini on if you ain't sure the glue is dry. It's not glue, it's the ink. So it's the Citadel shade. So we are using hide my head. Drakenhof Nightshade. Everything's like inverted. So it's like I look at the screen and I have to go left to go right on the screen. It's slightly confusing. So I'm still not quite cognizant of like how to correct everything just yet, but it'll come. So now you're hoping for books and minis too. What books are you looking for? I'm still waiting for the drop of Raldoron, which is obviously heresy. Not heresy as in I'm a heretic. It's Horus heresy. He's a heretic. Bloody Horus. But yeah, I'm a Blood Angels 9th Legion player, so I have played Blood Angels for donkeys, and I absolutely love their tragedy and their amazing story. No worries, I enjoy it here. Hey, how's Aya doing these days? I think it's burnt to a crisp, is it not? It didn't do particularly well when they were taking it back from the Zerg, and they probably have Zerg infestations for the rest of their lives, even if Kerrigan is in charge of most of them. But I think with like all of the bases and stuff like that, I've tried to make everything look like it is on Aya. Let me just try and get this in shot without it looking at my head. There we go. So you see like the green tinting and stuff like that. That's designed to be like your moss coming through and all that kind of stuff. I want everything to look like it's alive and healthy-ish. Obviously, the grass is a bit burnt and dying. For me, I've been working on networking, good, building my editing skills further, and today's video, I plan to just use my regular voice, since comments are mentioning they can't understand the accent. Yeah, so when we go back to like the acting side of my life, a lot of people think that acting is putting on a silly character and putting on a silly voice, and sometimes it is. Like the theatre stuff that I'm doing at the moment, it's family theatre. I talk like this because I'm a pirate, you see, but I'm not like a scary pirate. I'm not a silly pirate. So sometimes you just got to do silly things, and that's just kind of how I have to exist. But when it comes to you being on the internet and things like that, people just want you to be real. And I think in the acting space as well, if you get a commercial, you're not reading that like, you must buy this product. This product is the greatest product in the world. Like an 80s like proper narrated ad. It's like, in a world where you need new plastic miniatures, Archon Studio brings Starcraft Tabletop Miniatures Game. That's not how things are done now. Instead, it's, have you heard about the new Have you heard about the new Starcraft Tabletop Miniatures Game? Oh, it's amazing. Yeah. Oh, it's designed by Archon Studios. Yeah, they've been around for about 10 years and they're fantastic. That's the kind of thing that people are expecting these days. So if you're on YouTube, it's not dissimilar. They just want you to be you. And the more you can be, the less like masks that you're putting on and wearing, the easier you are to watch and listen to and enjoy. And equally, it's easier for you because you don't have to like pretend that you're someone else. So yeah, be you. It works out best. I've asked for the Ultramarines Omnibus off of Brother-in-Law. That should be good. I don't know much other than it's Ultramarines. Is it? Well, it'll be Uriel Ventress. So they're the books that I grew up on as a kid. They are, in my mind, flawless because I grew up with them. In the same way that StarCraft is flawless because I grew up with them. You'll love it. And Uriel Ventress as a character is like amazing. Very flawed, but also like he has a lot of MacGuffins. So he's good. How do you avoid getting paint on the clear plastic elements? So all of these have been primed on sprue. So I've not got a sprue to hand, or do I? I don't think I do. Otherwise, I would get one out for you. But in fact, right. So all of these, but not the clear ones, obviously the opaque ones, I've gone over and I've just sprayed them all in gold, lightly feathering them. So everything's gold. I've clipped them off. You might be worried that the gold is slightly different to the base gold. When you clip it, you can always paint over it. In this case, the difference is so minor, and they're in places where it's not overly obvious that actually putting the shade on it is not too much of an issue. So I've not had to really bother. I might notice later down the line, especially with like the close-up videography and stuff like that, that it might be something that looks a bit out of place. If so, I'll just go in and touch it up. It's really not a problem. But I've then assembled everything together, and now we are kind of at the tricky stage where, you know, I'm putting on these shades. And for the clear plastics, I just completely cover the screen there. Let me just move my head out of the way. There we go. Look at that. So for the clear plastics, the shade isn't actually going to really ruin the blue color, the blue hue. It might add a little bit of darker tinting to it, but you're not talking anything major. And certainly when a backlight comes behind it, you still get that pop and that glow that you expect. For when we dry brush it, that is a very different scenario, because obviously this is then going to have, you know, active gold paint going over clear plastic parts. So the plan is I'm going to be getting blue tack, and I'm just going to be dabbing blue tack in places. And if it's too close to plastic, or if the blue tack is a bit too thick to be able to then access and deal with this detail, I will just go over that with a brush afterwards. Again, it doesn't have to be perfect. You don't have to, again, don't think that everything has to be like incredible first time. Just take your time with them. If you're not doing a 12-hour challenge like an idiot like me, then you have even more time to actually enjoy the process. For me, I'm looking at this and it's like, okay, I need to get these miniatures done, you know, quick time. But for you, you might find that actually you've got quite a lot of time. You can just chill out and relax with it. So I'm now just putting on the clear blue plastic parts. So you can see they come on and off. You don't have to glue these in place. And I'm sure Jack, who's been with me for ages, I'm sure that he would also tell you I'm very good at doing like sub-assembly work. These miniatures thrive on sub-assembly. So do the Zerg as well. So you kind of want to build everything separately, knowing that at the end of the day, you're going to have miniatures that are going to look better for your efforts. So now we have it with all the clear blue plastics. They've not been affected by it. Yeah, it's starting to look the way that I'm hoping it would. So we're just going to paint the back end section of that. Just have a quick drink as well, because again, it's over 30 degrees and this isn't the US. We don't have aircon everywhere. In our houses, we have normal small fans. So we're just blowing hot air at ourselves. Let's have a quick read up through the chat. Where are we got to? So we just answered avoiding getting paint on the clear plastics. I need Death Watch Shadowbreaker 2, but I've only seen a copy and it's 230 quid. This is why I have a big collection of books and I've not read the vast majority of them, because I know I prefer physical copies, and I know as soon as they sell out, apart from like a limited run of paperbacks, which they keep in circulation, they're off. They're gone. It's so frustrating. Like, I just wish they would print more. Obviously, you can get digital copies, but that's not my jam. If it's your jam, that's cool. I main orcs with the goals I met on I main orcs, but with the goals I met on Instagram and the new orc boys replacing the old ones, I have more points of Imperial Knights. Well, you can still use your old boys. It doesn't really make a difference. Don't feel like your army is magically outdated because Games Workshop leaves like a new miniature. I mean, even proxying is absolutely fine. So don't feel like your army is now out of date and you can't use it. 100% use that stuff. If you have to get like base spacers, if the bases have increased in size, get a base spacer. Really don't sweat it. Don't worry about it. Just enjoy it. That's the main thing. I've been writing all my life. That's the thing I'm really an expert on. A flawed character is an interesting character. Yeah, for me, I've been writing, I mean, screenplays for probably about the last 8 years. Yeah, I think 8 years. Video games the last 4 years. And films and stuff like that. It's been a while since I've like had a film that I've done, but I have like animation projects and stuff like that I've written that are ready to put to sale, but I'm just waiting for the right contact at this point. So yeah, I get it. Flawed characters are always the best, which is why I like most of Games Workshop's writing, because to be honest, they're usually flawed and highly so. All right. A common pitfall for those just starting writing is forgetting consequential flaws. You almost certainly know this as an actor. Absolutely. Yeah. And also paying off things that you're building up. I think a lot of well, I say bad, but, you know, inexperienced writers forget certain plot points that they put in that they need to pay off for the audience. Obviously, you can still have like red herrings and stuff that doesn't pay off, but it ultimately for, you know, the reader, the viewer, it's frustrating rather than enjoyable. So back again with a bit of Drakenhof. I think my brush might be just a smidge too wet because that is not coming off as well as I was hoping. And yeah, when your paint is a bit too watery, and obviously this is a shade, so it's naturally going to be a bit watery in comparison, it can like run like water over wax. So sometimes you just need to either go back into the pot and just make sure the concentration's right. In this case, that seems to be doing the trick. Yeah, just kind of want a nice even coating on there. Just move my head out of the way. There we go. So again, these are super simple miniatures to paint. We also have the adepts that are coming up as well. These were not too bad to build, but they did take their sweet time to actually build together, because certain parts of it are a bit awkward to put together, but you get used to it. In terms of those, lots of their colors are blues, and lots of, again, I'm going for ceramic rather than like a, when I look at this, for instance, I think it's very easy to see the silvery details and think, I know what that is. That's non-metallic metal for silver. I don't think that's non-metallic silver. I think that's ceramics. When I look at it, it looks like a ceramic-like substance. So that's what I'm going for. I just think it's going to look pretty sweet. And, you know, if everyone else does silver, then it's going to look different as well. And, you know, it's not a bad thing to stand out. Certainly in this space, because we're obviously in a very competitive space. There's lots of painters out there, and I want to stand out and I want to have my own style. I think that's half of the fun of painting, to be able to do things your way. Right, so we are just adding all this Drakenhof to the back end here, and making sure that if there's any pooling that we don't like, that we just lift it with the brush. We just do like little downward strokes just to lift off any excess. We don't want there to be big like splodges. I mean, we can get away with little bits because when you dry brush it, it's going to even itself out a little bit. Let's catch back up. I never regret old minis because each mini is a new canvas. I never regret old minis because each mini is a new canvas. As in, like, do you strip them and repaint them, or do you mean as in, like, every new mini that you get is just a new opportunity to, like, continue enjoying the hobby? Any suggestions on paints and brushes for a first-timer to painting minis? Brushes, I would say you can go for things like Citadel. I have here a Winsor & Newton. That is a really good brush. That is a size 1. If you're working with Citadel brushes, they work in small, medium, large, extra small, stuff like that. The Citadel Artificer brushes did me really well for a long time. I am starting to transition across to Winsor & Newton. Not that there's anything wrong with the Citadel ones. Mine are just at a point where the tips, apart from the extra small, are starting to like lose their point. So it's a little more frustrating at this point, but I'm going to try something new so that when you come up with questions like, what brush should I use? I can go, actually, these brushes also work really well. But that Winsor & Newton is a very good brush. They're obviously a very reputable company. That's the blue version. There is a more expensive version with red handles if you want something a little bit higher quality. Again, I say higher quality. The blue ones are only one down from that, you know, level of prestige. So don't think that you're doing yourself a disservice. And certainly as you're a first-time painter as well, like, you want something that's a precision brush, but you don't have the motor skills yet, I'd imagine, to really make the most of them. So don't feel like you have to have everything be the absolute best. I mean, you can get away with cheaper brushes. You want something that's still going to keep a point. And I do have, certainly during some of the last live streams, a few, like, I suppose whilst we're here, you have to maintain your brush as well. So this brush, for instance, this is a wash brush. It still has to keep a relative point. And once I'm done, I use my brush soap. This is Masters brush soap, and it's good for everything from oil paints to acrylics and watercolors and everything like that. It's a really useful, both a cleaner and a conditioner. So I recommend that for like a brush soap. Again, this hobby is vast in the amount of tools, equipment, and money you can spend on it. So don't do everything all at once. Get a bit of painting under your belt with whatever tools you actually end up going for. Don't overly think about it. And then if you enjoy it and you find that it's like an expression that you like doing, you like painting your minis in a way that is, you know, that makes you happy, then that's when I would say go ham, spend what you want, and you at least then know what you like. I think a lot of people rush into hobbies and they spend a lot of money, but they don't actually figure out if they like the hobby until later on. And if they discover that they don't like the hobby, they've wasted a lot of money that could have been, you know, put aside for other things, like weddings. Sorry, Jack. Get the Armageddon box. Although that Armageddon box is amazing still. And you'd have had an orc army. Yeah, silly fool. No, I'm joking, but you can get the new starter set, though. That was pretty cool. Right. Catch up with some of these. You and I have many crossovers in what we do. Yeah, creative arts, funnily enough, have lots of crossovers. It's one of the reasons why my training in the acting sphere is very applicable to this. Because again, it's like everything's human connection. Like and YouTube especially is very much so, you know, human connections. Like, and I mean that in terms of like, you know, talking to people, being a, generally speaking, good human being, again, having interests and sharing interests, you know, all that kind of stuff. But it all comes down to just generally being a nice person that people want to actually talk to and listen to. And it's a difficult skill. Not everyone has it. And certainly those that do, not everyone knows how to, you know, mobilize and utilize their skills correctly. So certainly a lot of it, I'm not saying like people are naturally gifted actors or anything like that. In all these creative endeavors, hard work is the thing that actually gets you your skills and training and stuff like that. Nothing in life is as simple as I'm going to be really good at that because I naturally must be. It's training. Lots and lots of training. And certainly in the acting sphere. If you're just starting painting, I recommend looking into starter sets. They're generally good bang for your buck. Yep, that's also true. Again, Warhammer have a starting set for painting. I think it even has a nice gold in it as well. Again, that's Retributor armor. That is a perfect goal for Protoss. If you're collecting Protoss. If you're collecting Zerg, I would look into a technique called slap chop if you want to do something quick whilst you're learning to paint. That is, so you would spray all of your miniatures basically in like a grey or a black. And then depending on what you want to do, you can spray in a lighter color on top of that. And then you use these contrast paints or speed paints. And they're going to infill all of your details into the miniature because they have like a really rich pigment base. So the pigment just falls into like gaps. So a bit like how I'm using shades right now. The shades are designed that the pigment goes into the recesses. So it adds all of that depth, all of that shading, and really makes your miniature dynamic. But without you actually having to sacrifice a great deal of time or effort. I think the guys at Citadel wonderfully call things like Nuln Oil and Agrax Earthshade liquid talent because it quite literally makes it look like you're a painter with more experience than you've got. So look into ways to cheat it. Don't feel like you also have to, you know, go through and spend 3 million hours painting something. That is absolutely not necessary. Where are we? Camera angle on the mini while you do that, friendly thought. Yeah, I understand. You got to remember, this is all being done for a video. This live stream is just a chance for me to talk to you. Like, I could put the thing here so you're pointing down, but then I can't talk directly to you. So it's a bit of a trade-off. It's like, I can give you updates and stuff like that, and you can see where my shade has started adding like that depth and that richness to the metals. That stuff I can do. But unfortunately, this isn't being done through like a Stream Deck or anything like that. This is literally a direct link from my iPhone to my Mac. My Mac is hosting the live stream. The iPhone is the camera that is then obviously giving you the feed. I can move it about, but in an ideal world, it would be I could have several iPhones and I could just switch between them. Unfortunately, YouTube doesn't give me that option. It's like set it and forget it. So I've picked this because I think that us having a conversation is more productive. And then when you want to see the miniatures and the built-up story of how we get to where we go, that's all in the main video. So all of this is taking place whilst we're doing the 12 hours painting challenge. So don't worry, there will be lots of better shots of these miniatures. So they get filmed as I'm going along. In this case, I don't have to rush to do the detailed shots until later down, until they're all done. I do actually have my meta glasses with me, which again is just another tool for me to be able to give you guys a first-person field of view when I'm painting, and also an easy way for me to get you a bit of B-roll of me painting without me having to, set up cameras that are in my way and not see what I'm doing. So there is various things that I have on my end that improve your experience as a viewer as well. So I do think about the viewer, but in terms of this live stream, the main focus for me isn't the miniatures, although I will obviously put them in front of camera so you can have updates. The main thing for me is obviously having a bit of a back and forth in a conversation. And hopefully that clears it up a little bit as well. And hopefully that's what you're looking for as well. Certainly, if you're building, painting, or whatever you're doing at the moment, then it's always nice to be able to have a bit of a back and forth for a conversation. Or if you're waiting for your miniatures, I certainly had my grievances because I knew how little time I was going to have this month to get all this stuff done. So, it's nice to be able to vent off as well. And if you're, in the US, in Australia, New Zealand, or anything like that, and you're waiting for your minis, yeah, now's a pretty good time to actually, get that stuff off your chest, because it is frustrating and it shouldn't just be dismissed as, well, you just have to wait. Because at the end of the day, things had slipped. But anyway, communication got improved by Archon, which is good. So at the end of the day, it had the right effect. Now, in terms of this guy here, let me just shift my head out of sight. You can see all of that depth to him. Sorry, again, moving left to right here is surprisingly difficult. Everything's in reverse. So I have to move this right to move it left to you guys. So I find that mildly confusing. Everything's just mirrored. So he's looking pretty cool. I'm just going to put him upside down so he can dry fully. And then we're going to move on to our next zealot. Again, for those of you that are just joining us, we currently have Artanis. He is... Let me just move my... Again, this is really confusing which way I've got to move my body, my head, my hands to get out of the way. So he's looking pretty cool. He also has his little power generator pack as well. That is detached because that is going to need painting and sub-assembly, because, again, this has lots of ceramics on it. So it is a different finish, and I want to ensure that that looks as good as that should as well. But yeah, you see them all put together there. He's a cool mini. But even just this technique on a normal miniature with, I say slightly less detail. I mean, Archon doesn't really do slightly less detail. They do more and more and more detail. But here you have a zealot, and you can just see his armor looks sick. Like that, when it gets a dry brush on it, is going to look even better. And you can get away with, for me, dry brushing depends on what material that you're working on. So if you're working on like power armor or like the Terrans, for instance, I look at those plates and I think they're painted plates. So dry brushing adds a texture. It doesn't just like meet the high points. It adds a texture on the whole miniature or on all parts that have been dry brushed. So metals, which is what the Protoss mainly use, it's fine. You're not going to see a negative impact from having a dry brush on metals. But for things like ceramics, I find it tends to give it a weird texture. You want a smoother finish, and you can add chipping and stuff like that, but you want to control that. With the Zerg, a lot of their stuff is flesh. Flesh doesn't tend to be like this weird texture. Like it adds like almost a graininess to it. So you don't want that on flesh tones. And with like the carapace and things like that, there you could possibly get away with it, because again, you could have a rougher, more chipped sort of style of carapace. But for the most part, I tend to save dry brushing for fabrics and for like metals and stuff like that, where the texture doesn't feel weird, if that makes sense. So let me just catch back up. Would recommend trying different brands as each has their own pros and cons. Exactly. Again, it's the same as you'll hear people go, oh, Citadel paints are crap, or Colourforge paints are crap. And it's all nonsense. Like, these brands have good and bad paints. And you have to find the ones that work best for you and your style of painting. Obviously, you want something like this, a wet palette. And that will keep your paints wet. It will also allow you to mix your paints nicely as well. So they're really useful tools. This one was soaked 4.5 hours ago. It's now like just starting to dry out. It's that warm in here. In fact, have we gone up another degree? Let's see. Oh, it's only 30.8. It's gone down by 0.1 of a degree. Oh, dear. I meant each new mini I get is a new canvas. Yeah, that makes more sense. Thanks, everyone. I prefer Guilliman Flesh contrast over my golds. Absolutely fine. Again, this is two different styles of gold, and I actually have the examples down here. So, in terms of, let me just pull off the lion's head. In terms of the gold that we're going for the gold that's on the lion on his shoulder pad there. So can you see that sort of like a tarnished, aged metal? And again, it's like all of my golds I want to be gold alloys, because most of these miniature games that we play, these are also doubling up as armor pieces, and armor shouldn't be made out of gold because gold is incredibly soft. So over here, we have Dante. Now, this is like Guilliman Flesh / Reichland Flesh, but it's dark oath contrast. So in one go over, you add all of this detail, but it completely changes the tone of all of the metal. Like all over that metal has been completely changed. It also mattes it down, and I like that matte metal finish. This is a very different style to the Zealots, or to that ancient sort of gold-looking armor. This looks like pretty gold armor that is old. This looks like a usable alloy that contains gold, if that makes sense. So if I bring these up, you can just see the difference between them. So that's kind of the difference that I want. I want my Blood Angels, for instance, to look really fancy. I want the gold to look like a rich red. But with Protoss, I want them to look like an aged kind of gold. You know, like a titanium gold alloy or something silly. What have we got? And dry brush liberally. It works. It does work. Certainly when you're starting off. Things like dry brushing. When I say don't dry brush things like ceramic platings or ceramite plates or power armored plates, that kind of thing, or skin tones. What I mean is obviously do what works best for you, but in terms of when you get to a point where you're willing to try new things, that's one step that will bring out, you know, more detail in that miniature, because you can then like start to pick them out by hand. And the overall thing means that you have armor that is a lot smoother and it looks more realistic to what you're trying to do. But again, all these are miniature games. It doesn't matter. As long as you're having fun, that matters more than anything else. Fun is the name of the game for all of these. Masking the Adept clear plastic will be tricky. Yeah, so when it comes to the shading, that's not going to be an issue. The shade can get onto the blades and it won't negatively impact them. Certainly with like the Zealot's blade, they might be a bit too light anyway, so a darker shade may end up being quite useful. But it's also not the bluest of shades, so we're gonna figure something out. I'm actually quite tempted to use my Nihilak Oxide, which is Games Workshop speak for, you know, like a copper oxide kind of technical color. I'm tempted to try that on one of the spares up there. If that gives it like that flash, that pop of something, because it's a super thin pigment, and when it dries, it's almost clear anyway. to putting that on, we might be able to get like a really nice like bright pop towards the start of the blade. We'll see. We're going to have a little play around with all of this. Certainly, even if it's not done within this 12-hour challenge, it's something that I can look at doing after the fact when I have more time. But at the minute, I don't have a lot of time, and I still have all of these to paint. Like, I can't remember how many miniatures are in there, but it's a lot. It's a lot. So that's a lot of building, a lot of painting, and I have Saturday and Sunday free. I have another video that I have to produce over the weekend. Ideally, it'll come out Saturday, but in reality, I probably don't have time. But I might be able to get like 3 Terrans, 3 techniques. You know, that kind of thing. So you have 3 different painting techniques to paint your Terrans. And, you know, one of those might be dry brushing the armor. So you'll be able to see the difference of all these different techniques. Certainly like your edge highlights and volumetric highlights and stuff like that. Terms that won't make sense to new painters, but as you learn, is ways to improve the realistic style of your miniatures. They don't have to be done in a way that looks real. All of this is just art. And art is very subjective, and it's very dependent on what you want as the painter. I've been purposefully doing non-metallic metals on all my minis with parts that are meant to be metal. I was working on that, inevitably leads me mastering other crucial aspects of painting. Yeah, 100%. Non-metallic metals is not my favorite thing. I just don't think it obviously works nice on like posters and stuff like that. And I have seen very good non-metallic metals, and that requires you to spend all those hours learning. So the endeavor of it, amazing. It's not my favorite thing. At the same time, the actual technical aspects of producing non-metallic metals is incredibly hard and complex, and I do appreciate that. So we now have 2 painted sentries. I'm just going to start adding on their little energy beams as they're moving along. Also, adding in a little bit of that shade has just added on a tiny bit of paint on the inside of these little grooves. So these are sticking in a little bit better as well. Little tiny things that are useful. I'm just going to whack them back down there. They look amazing, by the way. Like, I'm really happy with that style of miniature with like the clear blue and just like even the shade. If you were to just put this on the board, they look really good. So next up we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 zealots. I'm going to give this stream, we have been going for an hour. I'm going to give it another half an hour or so, and then we'll call it quits, because everything that I'm doing at the minute is obviously for the painting challenge, and obviously a little bit of the conversation between all of us with your questions as well. So again, leave questions in the comments. I am going through them, I promise you. We also have another finished miniature. You can have this as a spoiler, so don't tell anyone. Oh yeah, look at that. I think the light is just on the wrong side. There we go. You can just see it there. But again, same techniques. It's got like the green mixed with the browns. So you have this nice sort of like natural looking basing with a bit of variation to it. The actual texture of the bases is that good that you don't need to add additional. You don't have to add additional pylons to them. No, you don't have to add like texture paints and stuff like that. You can comfortably get away with just dry brushing them. And I tend to find Games Workshop ones are okay on the more modern ones. They have a little bit more depth, but they are not as varied as this. This looks like a pretty decent basing system without having to do anything. So yeah, I'm quite happy with that. Just check we're up to date. Yeah, we're up to date on there. Again, any questions, leave them in the comments. I say comments, I mean the live chat. You know what I mean. Someone who's done 3 live streams in the last week and is still to learn all the nitty-gritty details. The details on these miniatures are super fine as well. And what I'm finding is the shade is really bringing out all of the details that you're then going to go on to after the fact. So it's a really useful style of painting that brings out all of the details that live and exist in your miniatures that are hard to see when they're just base coated, when the depth and the contrast that you see is limited. We are going heavy as well on these shades. We're not overly holding back because we are going to be dry brushing over them, and that's going to return a lot of the brightness. So we kind of want the recesses to be nice and deep. Again, everything that we show and reveal on these miniatures, as in like when we place that in the back, and you can just see all of the depth to the flesh there. Although that looks like armor paneling actually. But anyway, all of that gets revealed means that you can go over it with more accuracy because you can finally see it. Whereas prior to that, they're harder to see, harder to pick out, and so they take a lot longer. Do you have any thoughts on Stalkers, both as a unit, building, and painting? I've not got the Stalkers, so I had to be very tactical. Again, I'm not monetized, or I wasn't monetized. I've just hit YouTube Partner, so that is currently in the process of all like the reviews and checks that YouTube has to do. So I've not been monetized. My point being of that is everything that comes to this channel is at my own cost, apart from Gazkul, who was given to me by what was it, War Office in Rochdale. They sponsored that video for, to basically look after me because he's good like that. Is Andy it runs it. Let me just go bring Gazkul out. So this is a particularly cool mini, a good example of how I can paint when I'm at my best. So you can see that basing, everything like that is all done to a good standard. If we flip him round, hopefully you can see the checkerboarding on the back of his power claw. That is bright red on one side. Just figure out how to turn my hands. Black on the other. And there's like a gradient between the checkerboarding red and the black on the other side. So it's like we had a gradient all the way down. His mini is super fun to paint. Like, he is amongst the best miniatures that I've painted. He's not fully done yet, but certainly, we've added like the nice checkerboarding and stuff from the painting challenge. So there are miniatures that I have that were graciously given to me so I could do reviews and painting challenges, and also, obviously give War Office in Rochdale a shout out. They are very good. When it comes to StarCraft, all honesty, I have tried to get through the partnership program with Archon. It hasn't gone my way this time. Obviously, I'm a small channel, so as things are building, these opportunities arise. But again, to bring on to that point of everything that I get is at cost, so I have to be strategic with what I purchase and where I think you guys are going to be for those videos, as in if you're going to enjoy them or not. Sometimes it's as simple as I can do like a painting technique video. Certainly I can do like some silly videos, like if you've seen my Deathcore of Kriegsman, the ultimate Kriegsman at that, he is impossible to kill for reasons that are only valid when you read or watch the video. But things like that, I can do silly things that don't cost me a great deal. In terms of this was obviously £215 to include the Protoss and the 2-player founder set, not including shipping, which was £24. So I had to be careful that I spend my money in a way that is, firstly, something that you guys want to see, and secondly, something that I can actually afford, because I can't make myself broke. Once we have more money coming through, whether it's through Patreon, memberships, when that becomes a thing on here, should be about a month or so, or just through AdSense, that's when I can start to be a bit sillier, and we can start to do things like, your Imperial Knights, and we can do like personal heraldry, or we can do, obviously, I am getting Wave 2 miniatures, so that's already in my budget plan. So we are going to have siege tanks. We're going to have one siege tank, one Ravager, and we're also going to have the Immortal as well. So there's certain things that I'm anticipating that I will 100% have for the channel. But when it comes to like some of the challenges that I want to do, like creating my own heraldry for an Imperial Knight, that comes when the channel makes basically a return on the investment. Because again, it's an expensive hobby, especially things like Warhammer. And I'm not made of money. I don't have a massive reserve. I don't have really anyone that can support me in this endeavor. And already this year has been financially a bit terrible. So I have to be really, really thoughtful. So Stalkers, I will get at some point. I think they look really cool. And again, you play StarCraft 2 and the first time that you use those and you're blinking across the board and stuff like that, they're amazing fun. I think they'll be really fun in game. Certainly anything with Protoss where you can do movement tricks, you're on to a winner. But in terms of painting them, I would go for a different scheme to the rest of this gold. I would stick to the more traditional dark regal blues, just because I'd want is it the Nezarene that Zeratul is the leader of, or was the leader of. He is obviously separated from Aya and the Golden Armada, so the miniatures should reflect that. They should look different, even if they're working on the same side. It's the British and the French fighting together. It's yeah, we kind of were enemies once, so this is we're very different. But at the same time, we are working together, but you kind of want that differential. Hopefully that is not a niche reference between the British and the French. I also don't mind the French now, just to point that out. And I work with them every now and then, and the Frenchman that I work with is absolutely delightful. So we let history be history. But also it is a bit of a meme as well. Right, just checking the finish on that. Just need a little bit more shading on there. And towards his butt. He needs a little more shading on his butt. So here we have Zealot number 2. Again, just adding all those details and depth in. I have to do his braids as well. So we'll just get onto that very quickly. Again, just need all these little details just to stand out, stand apart. Obviously with his braids, we are still tarnishing the gold, but most of the contrast that you're going to get from that is actually when the rest of the braids are painted black. That's when they're going to really stand out. So that is our second Zealot. So my progress is relatively relaxed at the minute. 4 more Zealots, 4 more Adepts, and a Pylon to go. With current trends, I'll probably get companies approaching me first on Instagram. You're just a mere 100 more ahead of me from my research. You're on track to start getting approached on there. Look, even on YouTube, I've been approached by, I think it was Go Login and stuff like that. If I'm approached by someone who wants to give me a useful tool that you guys can actually appreciate and use, I'm kind of happy for that. I mean, certainly going forward, I'll have to see what we can get in terms of brand deals, just because obviously that is a lot of funding that the channel could do with. Again, we live in modern day YouTube. People understand the score. So I'm not worried that you guys would be like, oh, he's selling out. I very much so. I have to be able to survive to make this kind of content in these videos. So yeah, hopefully in time we get some brand deals that allow me to survive and thrive, and that way we can create more content. It is one of those where it could be something as simple as a game store has an affiliate link and stuff like that. Obviously, I've seen plenty of those. I'm trying to work with studios that I know, not just like Wayland or Element, where I've never spoke to them, I've never seen the team or anything like that. I have no affiliation with them. I want it to be people I know, people that I know are good and work hard and really care about, getting the best out of the hobby for you guys. For me, that is War Office. They're not my most local game store, so it's not even like they're my closest. They're just the best that I have around. and they are really good. So I will always, like, you know, shout their praises. This is not sponsored, obviously. This is just a case of, for me, I will obviously pass on the best advice that I can give. And for me, they have been delightful. And again, they also have supported me from like the early days of me wanting to do this as well. Like all these discussions and things like me getting Gazskull, all of that has come about from, you know, Andy, who runs the store, just generally being a very nice human being and actually wanting me to succeed, which is not a given. You know, he doesn't have to do anything that he did to support me, and yet he did. So those kind of relationships, those business relationships that you build, you have to nurture them. And certainly I want him to be successful. I want his business to grow. And any of you guys that are in the area of like Yorkshire or Lancashire, I think you'd find that he's, you know, a relatively easy to get to store. It's just off the M62 and all that kind of stuff. So that is kind of the brand deals that I would like to do. I want to do the ones, you know, the decals, and you like smudge a load of paint over, pick one up with like a rubber thing, and then you print it on. That's the kind of thing that I want to get, and actually is one that I want to get in contact with. Again, I'm a smaller channel. We'll see how that goes. But they're the kind of things that it's like, oh yeah, that's something that you guys would all find useful. I would find it useful as well. So I immediately have a product there that I can think, oh, I know exactly how I would put this towards you. And I know that you guys would find it useful. Even like your Terrans are a perfect example of, they have like the 1940s, 1930s style, you know, like pin-up girls and stuff like that, and cigarette packets, you know, a deck of cards and all that kind of stuff for their squads. All that kind of like, so I'm looking for nostalgia. It's not nostalgia, it's not the right word, but all that kind of old hat, you know, soldiering is like a bit lapsadaisical, a bit, you know, fun of a bad situation, that kind of thing. So that's the kind of thing where I can see those things being really useful for StarCraft, but for obviously for Warhammer, it's immediately obvious. You just use that for any form of heraldry. You can make your own chapters with their own heraldry, those kind of things. So yeah, well, we'll see what we can bring to the channel going forward. Certainly, now that we hit the first stage of YouTube Partner, I can start sharing my analytics with some of these companies so they can go, oh, look, right, yeah, cool. You hit the right people that we're looking for to advertise to. Let's work on something. And it just means it takes a bit of pressure off of me financially as well, which is super important for anyone that's running a business. But also, I want to do more and more of these videos. And to do that, I need more and more free time, which means I need more money coming in through this kind of endeavor so that I don't have to panic about making it month to month and pay my mortgage. Because, you know, being a grown-up sucks. Any special plans when I hit 1K subs? I'm nearly at 1K subs. Also, I do want to point out, if you do go into the description, I have a giveaway form linked there. So this is just my monthly giveaways. It might coincide with me hitting 1,000 subscribers. But if any of you guys want to take advantage of, you know, a £30, it's a Warhammer e-voucher. But if you let me know if you win and you get in contact with me, or I get in contact with you rather, that you'd rather, like, we could see if Archon does like £30 gift vouchers. Obviously, this is a StarCraft themed live stream. I do very similar with like the guys over at War Office as well. For them, I say to them, you know, if you guys win, let me know. I'll get you £30 in-store credit. So it's the exact same thing. If you would rather £30 be put elsewhere, let me know. We'll see what we can work out. Ideally, not like a cash transfer, though. I want you to be able to spend that money on hobby and not just be like, I'm going to spend this on surviving. Do you know what I mean? Okay, let's just catch back up with some of the comments. And do you have any... we've done Stalkers. Current trends, probably get... Yep. Any suggestions on tools a newbie might not think about? Decent clippers. You'll find the Warhammer Paint Starter Set, just as an example, comes with a cheap set of clippers. They're not the best. I have the slightly better Citadel clippers. They're low profile. They're still not the best clippers on the market. Like, these things, when you're doing hobby stuff, save you so much time. But also, people will tell you that you need a mold line removal tool. You don't. Mold lines are soft plastic where the two tools have come together, or the two halves of a tool have come together. They inject the plastic. There's just a thin little line where that joint is, or where the two faces have slammed together. I work in tool making, so this is like my bread and butter as well. In one of my many day jobs, I'm also an actor and all that kind of jazz. So it's soft plastic. You can use the edge of your clippers and you scrape these little things off. You hear that click? It's one of the things that I don't like about this. It should just stop there, and it doesn't, which means they must not be perfectly aligned. Plus, it must blunt it every time it does it. Really annoying. But again, this might just have a bad tolerance or something. It still worked perfectly fine for me as a set of clippers, and the lower profile and like the slightly narrower tip to it means that it gets into those really awkward to reach spots. So good clippers, worth their weight in gold. Good brushes are worth their weight in gold. But again, when you're spending money, you don't have to go for the very best. These professional series Winsor & Newtons are about £10 each, I think. Or it's certainly about where I got them from War Office. So again, they offer like a little bit of a discount. But you have a rough idea there what the cost of that is. They're well worth it. That's a very good brush, but you have to look after it as well. You don't overload your brush. You only like fill half of your bristles. So you would wet your brush a little bit, dry it out, pick up a little bit of paint, preferably thinned in something like a wet palette. Also, the most impressive tool that you will get as a painter. That will keep your paints wetter for longer, stop them from drying out immediately, and you can thin them on the wet palette. You can also mix paints on the wet palette, which means you can spend less money on paints. So wet palette, good clippers, good paintbrushes, good lighting setup. I mean, I have 2 lights going. There's also a softbox light. You can see the light bouncing off of my hand. So I have lots of lights around me at all times, partially because I'm filming myself as well. So you need to see me well lit. Like if I do that, that's too much. But if I bounce it off of a wall, for instance, it's like a soft light. But you need good lighting to be able to see. If you have diminishing eyesight, I highly recommend getting anything that is going to magnify your vision. Anything like a 2x magnifying lens that drops down. Coffee and Hobby, I've seen one of your videos and you have one on your forehead. So that's, if you want to go check out Coffee and Hobby's YouTube as well, he has it on. I am lucky in that my eyes are in good condition for now. You know, when I hit, you know, my 40s, perhaps they deteriorate to a point where I just can't see well enough like I used to. So that's when I would start considering having forms of magnification. Also, it's a preventative measure as well. So you can get magnification now so that your eyesight doesn't deteriorate going forward. All those things are very useful. So any suggestions about maybe head torch has honestly been the best thing I bought. I can't paint without it now. Exactly. Even something as simple as a head torch. You don't have to have, you know, a crazy lighting rig. This, by the way, is like a £20 lamp from, you know, one of those cheap stores like The Range. I think it was literally £20. I think that softbox light was £25. You know, it's like this lighting setup is relatively inexpensive. That's sat on a tripod so that I've got like a good angle down. And I can obviously adjust that and put the camera right behind the light so that I'm lit up without the shadows being all over the place. But again, that's me thinking in terms of like film lighting and how I would do certain things. Obviously, this is not perfectly lit, but this is for a YouTube live stream. It's fine. Me too. Just got mine the other day. What a massive difference it makes. Let me just go up a little bit. What have you said? Do you have any thoughts on Star? You just got Stalkers the other day. Oh, no, that wouldn't make sense. And what a massive difference it makes. Okay, it's like steel. Oh, you're on about clippers. Yeah. Clippers are the number one way of getting any of these things off of the sprues. It's like without them, you're going to struggle before you even build your first miniature. And if there's pieces that go together and you've got like a bit of gate there, like a little bit of where the sprue meets the component, it stops you from building your miniature correctly. And I've seen lots of, unfortunately, new miniature players come in, not know these things, not research them, and then their miniatures have like big gaps where they just shouldn't. Does it really matter? No, people are going to learn at their pace and things like that. So don't worry about it too much. But also, if you can improve yourself, then why wouldn't you? Okay. Green Stuff World does a hobby kit with a knife, clippers, files, drill, and a saw. That was a good buy for me. Yeah, if you enjoy it, then that's great. Again, I've not played about with them. I've seen the kit, so I do know what you're talking about. I don't know the quality of them, but if it's working, then it's doing the job. I can't remember who makes the best clippers, but they're something like 50 quid. You know, again, it's like, how far do you want to take this hobby? How much do you want to spend? Work with what works best for you. Even these, I only had these about a year. Before that, I had the standard kit clippers that you get, and you would occasionally come into a situation where they're too bulky to actually hit the bit that you need correctly, and you would always have to clean off the gate. So, yeah, there's always going to be ways that you'd need to spend more money to improve things, but you know, you can work around virtually everything. Limitation is the what's the word I'm looking for? Limitation is the not crucible, the boiling pot of creativity. Sure, that'll do. When you have limitations, you have to figure out how to work around them, which means that you work on creative endeavors to fix problems. And usually the result of that is better than if you just had absolutely everything to hand. Okay, keep working down. My clippers got all my stuff so ready. All the US stuff should be at a distributor and getting ready to be sent out. Well, I really hope so. And also thank you for coming back to the channel all the time as well, Matthew. I really appreciate you. Yeah, you've been waiting a long ass time. Again, we're in the final steps. The US will have their miniatures over the next 3 weeks, because obviously the last ships they'll have to sail and come into harbour and whatnot. Cheers all. Good afternoon, everyone. How's the painting progressing? Let me show you, Aaron. So primer sprue or paint primer after building. No, I primed all of these on sprue. Because you have the transparent plastics, if you want to keep them transparent, and there's some benefits to doing so because they self-backlight. So if you have a light source, for instance, you know, I don't know if that works for my example, but the lighting comes in from the back of there. You have like gems here, or you turn it around slightly, and there's like, this is a good example. The gem that is sat there, you can see the light coming in behind it. I mean, like if I do that, you can see it darken and lighten. That effect is worth its weight in gold to me. I love that it does that. So to keep that effect basically going, you need to make sure that you don't paint over them. You can tint clear plastics, but you can't paint over them with opaque paints because it will block out that light and you lose the effect, which is so fun. So I primed everything on sprue. I've then gone in to tint everything with Drakenhof Nightshade. I've done that whilst it's built up. So these have all been built up together, and you can see there, if you look at his miniature, the glowing section in like his chest, that has been gone over with Drakenhof Nightshade. It still has its clear effect because it's a shade, not in like a regular paint, so it'll tint and not cover. So those little bits of details make the world of difference to me with this hobby, because StarCraft or Archon Studio have gone into this with a very different perspective than someone like Warhammer would do. And I really appreciate that they have done that, because I think these look so much better for it. So, hello, Aaron. And prime with a spray can or paintbrush. I've primed with a spray can. As much as I possibly can, I like to prime with spray paints. For me, I'm not using like an airbrush. I don't have an airbrush, but I have obviously rattle cans for primer. What I tend to find is when the rattle can dries, it dries incredibly hard. So you can't just scrape paint off with your nail, for instance. Sorry, do that in shot. You can't just scrape paint off with your nail, for instance. It's a little bit more robust, which means as you're building things up, or if you have like plastics that come into contact with each other, you're not damaging your paint as much. It also leaves on a little tiny bit of a texture, which is useful for when you're doing shades. So the paint is more likely to stick. If it's a nearly glossy finish, it's less likely to stick, and you end up with that wax effect of like the water not adhering. Just so we have a little time check, we have come up to 4 hours, 59 minutes, and 10 seconds. So about halfway, I will be taking like a break. I will be leaving the live stream. We can give it another 20 minutes or so. But I will have to take a break so I can actually have something to eat. I've not actually had breakfast yet, which I don't mind. I'm used to fasting. That's kind of like what my blood group is. Although I had a tea with milk in it, so technically I'm not fasted, but we'll let bygones be bygones. It also helps me with my vision as well, because when I'm fasted, my focus is like pin sharp. What's the difference between airbrush and handbrush? I don't have an airbrush, but I've been thinking about getting one. Any recommendations? I don't have recommendations because I don't work with them, but I'm probably the oddity in this fashion, that I'm a very old school painter. I started when I was about 10, so I've been doing it for about 25 years. For me, an airbrush is a very useful tool. Don't take that as me saying that it's not, you don't need one. You don't need one, but at the same time, if you have one, they're very useful. So for instance, if you want to prime your miniatures, you have access to, more ranges of paint because there's more airlines of paint. And I think you can thin your paints down to work in an airbrush, but then it requires more cleaning. In terms of their application, you can do volumetric highlights. So for instance, or zenithals, for instance, if we painted Zeratul here black, as you can see, if you wanted to do a quick painting technique or like slap chop, and you didn't want to paint him gray and just contrast straight over, paint him black, you would take a white primer or a gray primer and you would spray at an upward or a downward angle, so that, again, when you're using like a rattle can, you feather, and when you're using an airbrush, you don't want to like sustain, because that leaves too much paint and texture. So again, you're just lightly feathering on paint from the top. You leave the top surfaces brighter than the lower surfaces, and any recesses are obviously going to be covered from that. When you then go in with a contrast paint, it gives you additional depth. But you can go further with that. If you have an airbrush, and again, you can do all of this with a brush, it just takes longer, and the technique is harder because you have to work with thinner paints, you have to work with more layers. But with an airbrush, for instance, on reds, purple is a very good color as a contrast to red for depth. I tend to work with brown because I think that brown and red give off a nicer, richer tone. But if you work to purple instead, you end up with this also very beautiful finish. So you would basically paint your miniature purple and you would do the zenithal with red. Then you'd build up your red layers, your highlights, and what you end up with is a lot of depth to that paint. Not just in terms of like light to dark, but from warm to cool. So you can do depth in many different ways. And that is a very good example of how to do it. So airbrushes, very useful. Do you need them? Absolutely not. You can thin down paints and you can do the exact same thing. You'd paint your miniature red and you would add in that purple tone, or in my case, a brown tone, and that would give you the same effect without it's not horrendously longer. It really isn't. But airbrushes do give you access to certain other bits and elements. Like you can spray little bits of white around things that might be glowing in the way that you would paint them. But again, you'd want to build up layer upon layer upon layer. Whereas this has like a focused cone, and anything outside that cone gets a lighter spray. So it kind of gradiates itself without trying. Whereas doing that by hand takes more time, more effort. You have to be more focused. You have to concentrate on your paint thickness. You have to concentrate on how much you load your brush. All these kind of things that you have to cognitively think about to get the same result, where an airbrush, you still have to concentrate, but, you know, that is a lot easier than me building up layer after layer. What type of primer would work well for gold? We just go back some a little bit too far ahead. I use a rattle can to prime. It works fine for me, but I am far from a good painter. I also prime on sprue because of the clears. Yeah, all good. Don't worry about what is a good painter or a bad painter. You certainly don't ever need to worry about that. In terms of the actual like judgment of your miniatures, you're the only person that really matters. Even when I'm doing these challenges, like these are going to be painted to a challenge standard. These are not like, I've not done these for a studio. I've not done these for my showcase. These are just done to a challenge standard. They're going to look really good, but they're not my best work. And equally, in terms of you, when you're learning and you're building up, and there's so many people that are coming to StarCraft Tabletop Miniatures Game that have not played anything else. The last thing that I want anyone who is painting to think is my painting good enough? Who gives a crap? Are you enjoying painting them? Yes? All that matters. Do you enjoy the results? Brilliant. Do you want to improve, or do you want to find new techniques that you might enjoy even more? Excellent. Let's work on that. But in terms of what is good, bad, you're the arbiter of that. No one else. That also doesn't mean that you can then go, I'm the arbiter, I'm judging your painting. At the end of the day, art is art. Art is very subjective, and this takes a lot of time to get, you know, the motor skills built up to be able to do the accurate little bits that you might want to build up to. So don't worry about it. As long as you're having a good time, that's all that matters. And that's what I want to teach people about painting, because there's lots of people that will tell you every single technique under the sun, and they forget about the human factor, which is, you know, Squidmar Miniatures, for instance, will show you some amazing, incredibly beautiful, you know, miniatures. Is that attainable for someone that's just come into the hobby, or is that intimidating? It's like scrolling Instagram. If you scroll Instagram and all you have is miniatures from painters that have been painting for 20, 30 years, does that inspire you, or does that do the opposite? Does it put you off because you think, well, how am I going to paint that? Sometimes the challenge is good. Sometimes it's intimidating. It puts people off. All I care about is that you guys have fun. Because if you have fun painting, you will naturally improve over time, and you'll enjoy the entire process. And you'll learn things, and it won't feel like learning. It won't feel like you're doing something. It's just, oh, cool, I'm going to try this today. It's the same thing with acting. Actors shouldn't act. They should just exist. You should have fun with the process, and you shouldn't put weight on it. Because if you enjoy the process, everyone else has a good time too. So there's a lot of crossovers between all forms of art. I'm not wanting an airbrush. You don't need one. Yeah, you really don't need one. I shut the door. You have to open it if you trust them. I think my fiance has trapped the cats in because she must be doing something. It's a very warm day as well. Again, if you would like to leave a like on the channel, that would be much appreciated, because honestly, this video getting out to more people, so more people find StarCraft hobby content, I think that is really, really useful at the minute, because there's a lot of people that are brand new here that do not know anything about, you know, painting, building. They're learning from scratch, and the more opportunities that they have to get the right people in front of them that give them the right advice, the better. All right. You need to clean out an airbrush between colors, which is a bit of a pain as well. Of course, yeah. It's additional. It's not. I think the thing is, I think of things that get in your way as gates. The more gates you put in the way, the less access people have to it. And in terms of airbrushes, yeah, you have to get good at cleaning things, because every single time you change color, you don't want the previous color to run in and ruin the layer that you're about to put on. Just got back from walking and feeding dogs. I left when you were reading my comment about how you and I were close to being approached by companies on Instagram. The only person you should compare yourself is who you were before. Even then, things change in life. Not everything goes perfectly, and comparing yourself to who you were also isn't necessarily the healthiest thing. Find routes to enjoy what you do. And as long as you're enjoying what you do, it doesn't really matter about anything else. Again, if you have pressures on top of that, I understand the frustration. But at the same time, you still have to enjoy the things that you do, whether it's painting, whether it's creating, all that kind of stuff has to be enjoyable, first and foremost, because it's red. I mean, I don't think anyone here that is watching this live stream thinks that I'm not enjoying my time here painting. And that's because I genuinely am. But if I was here and my demeanor was more of a case of, right, guys, oh yeah, someone actually just joined the channel, joined the live stream as well. So it's like, hi guys, yeah, I've got these whatever they are, you know, zealots or something, and yeah, I'm just gonna paint them. I've done like the base, and you can see like I did some greens there. That negativity feeds through. So always just enjoy what you're doing, and if you can't enjoy what you're doing, if you need breaks and things like that, take them, because it shows. That person has since left because that was a negative attitude. I hope there'll be some players in Cambridgeshire. All right, Stumpy, are you part of the StarCraft UK Discord? In fact, yeah, I think I recognize your name from there anyway. I think I might do. And I think I've even seen you put that down before. Someone's, I've just seen it on the StarCraft TMG. Yeah, so I'm trying my best as well to get anyone from the UK. Link is in the description for the UK StarCraft Discord. So if you want to find local players and things like that, head on down there. Just get yourself on so that you can meet up with other UK StarCraft hobbyists, play games, because at the minute, I think there was only 740 orders. So there's not a massive amount of us that are playing, even if those boxes are being split. I know there's only me and one other person at my local. So again, the more people that come into the hobby, the better the hobby is. It's one of the reasons why Warhammer is as good as it is. I can go to any local game store and I will find people that will want to play Warhammer. So again, we want to do that with StarCraft. Archon at the minute is obviously doing their best to create all these miniatures and produce them, but they're so busy that we kind of have to do a little bit of the lifting as well, and show people that it's a really cool hobby and that these miniatures are freaking awesome, to a point where I think these miniatures are better quality than what we've had through Games Workshop. And that's not to say that the Games Workshop quality is bad. They're not. They're fantastic. These are just the extra step where they've been extra thoughtful. Some of these miniatures, though, do lack a bit of posability. Like if you're buying Zealots, 6 Zealots is like getting close to the maximum number of variations that you can do. I think you can change arm poses. You might have an extra 2. So you're only going to get like 9 to 12 individual looking Zealots. Same with the Adepts. There's only 4 versions of Adepts, and that's with all arm options because it's 2x2. So there's certain miniatures here where they've not expanded the amount of like adjustability that you can have that Games Workshop is very good at doing. But aside from that, the quality and the detail of these miniatures makes it more than worth it. I hope there will be some players in Cambridge. The more competition for Games Workshop, the better. Competition drives innovation and consumer-friendly practices. 100%. And I'm sure this game, and this is the thing, when people think of anything is going to kill Warhammer, nothing is going to kill Games Workshop. aside from possibly themselves, if the world just changed and people decided that they didn't like these kind of war games anymore. They are always going to be on the top because they are the most accessible. Now, I don't mean accessible in terms of price, because as we know, they are not always very cheap, but they certainly are the most accessible in terms of I can go to, all over the world, and I can usually find somewhere that sells Warhammer miniatures. Whether it's an independent or the actual Warhammer stores themselves is a different matter, but there's always a place where you can find them. That is worth its weight in gold for a lot of players, and it also has the biggest player base, which, again, when you have these games, a bit like Stumpy, you want to be able to play them with people. In my case, I'm a little bit antisocial like that, and I will be certainly bringing them to my local game store because I do want to show people the miniatures and I want them to have a little play. But I don't mind like Kill Team, where I do player versus enemy and I literally just have a game with myself because, sad hammer is also still fun hammer. But yeah, we'll move on to another question. I only have to run it under the tap and blow it out. That's good. But it means getting up rather than dipping the brush in the pot right in front of you. I mean, to be fair, that does sound surprisingly easy to clean. I thought you'd have to have paint thinners and stuff like that. Really do some nitty gritty. But if that's it, then what are you complaining about, man? Hey, you need to stop complaining about those airbrushes, my guy. I do want to have a play about with one at some point, and I will do. I have no doubt in the future I will have airbrushes in my inventory. Again, I can run this kind of room as a setup because I have a double window that opens. I can have ventilation and things like that without issue. So it is just a case of, at the minute, I don't really need one. But when the time arises, I will 100% be joining everyone else and getting the most out of that tool, even if it is mostly used for priming and zenithols and stuff like that. Why I try to elevate other mini painting creators. We are lucky to be part of a hobby and content creation space that encourages people to elevate each other. Exactly. And there are on the internet people that will try and bring you down. So you have to find, again, the right people that encourage you and don't try and limit you. I think it's super important to remember that everyone here is going through their own thing. Everyone's learning. We're all at different stages. And again, comparison is the thief of joy. And I think social media in many ways is very unhealthy because of the amount of times that people will compare themselves regardless of, whatever that person's experience is. And they don't look at themselves as being quote unquote good, and good is so subjective. What you like is not what everyone else likes. And I think the best term for it is, not to yuck someone's yum, which is also sounds disgusting, but hey, it's a relatively good way of putting it. I can hear my cat on the other side of the door. And as much as I would love to bring him in, he just shouts at me constantly. And if I pick him up to show you guys, he goes, nope, I refuse. I shall fight you. And we don't want a fight. So in 2 years, no one is going to field more than 6 zealots anyway. Exactly. If you have noticed as well, I haven't gone for the all-in box. I very much so, again, tactically thinking in terms of how I spend my money at the minute, because this business is not making money, it's hemorrhaging money at a massive rate. I very much so know that we're going to have expanding ranges, and I want to make sure that I have the space, the time, and I am collecting 3 armies and not just one. Again, mostly for channel content, but also this is my childhood and I absolutely love this game. So I want to have my siege tank, I want to have my immortals, I want to have a colossus, I want an ultralisk, I want all of those things. And yeah, I think when you're building lists in the future, it's like having 60 Space Marine intercessors. It's like, it's fun, but I mean, no one's really playing that unless you're doing the cheesiest of cheese lists. Also, I do kind of like the idea of just having a massive amount of bolter fire just spamming. Like, run your Space Marines like a Horde army. I mean, I think that would work. But I'm an idiot, so don't listen to me for anything that includes tactics. I just like playing for fluff. So, yeah, again, this is a very new war game. So we're going to have so much stuff added over time. And again, a lot of the things that they're adding aren't just miniatures that are in game. Some of them are just in like books. That's what they've said in one of their AMAs as well. So it's like, you know, we're going to have a lot of really interesting miniatures, some of which we've never seen in the game or on tabletop before. So we do want to make sure that we leave room to be able to pick those up. In my case, to be able to store them all. God, I love this. Right, let me show you this once I've got this shade on his helmet. So some of these zealots are like bare helmeted. They don't have anything on the head. And some of them have like the tiniest bits of armor that look like they would do nothing, but they look pretty. And this is one of those ones where it looks pretty, but it would do absolutely nothing. Also, like, is this armor actually going to stop a Psyblade? Probably not. Is it entirely decorative? Probably. But at the same time, it does look freaking sick. So, just get his helmet in the way there. Can you see that? The armor plating on there. Also, the sheer aggression of that lean forward. I don't know if it's got too much shade in it at the minute, but just like those gold plates on there, and you can just see a tiny bit of the flesh underneath. They have really gone to town with how they've designed and developed these miniatures. So, again, I'm really looking forward to building up more impressive miniatures as we go. I think the Immortal is up there with my favorites. The Siege Tank is probably going to be my absolute favorite for years and years to come, because who doesn't love camping a ton of siege tanks? I mean, I used to play defensive, so I would just have bunkers, siege tanks, and missile towers, and just like, again, I didn't like player versus player. I wasn't competitive. I liked the trip of like having this big defensive line, making the most of my minerals until all of like the AI enemies ran out of minerals, and I just go out and smash them with battle cruisers. So anyway, hello there. Hello, Wojtek. Hello there. Got a Black Widow Spectrum, a good but cheap quality airbrush. When you were saying you got a Black Widow, I was thinking, are you a pet? No, I understand now. Catch you all later. I'm off in the garden for an ice cream. Enjoy, Jack. Sorry that I didn't catch you in time for that bit, but yeah, as you can see, this is quite a lot of people coming on now, which is wonderful. We'll definitely have a look into that. I'll get an air compressor as well. Always forget that part. Yeah, you do need an air compressor for an airbrush. Otherwise, it's just going to run out, and it'll be very sad. I'll never get an airbrush. It does not appeal to me. It doesn't look fun, but that's only my personal taste. Well, Wojtek, you don't need them. I don't use them. I do want one in the future, because there are certain things that it does do better than painting by hand, but at the same time, I'm very much so old school, and I paint everything, you know, just with good old-fashioned brush. And I've not had any problems either painting more extreme techniques. So it's entirely usable. I'm only going to collect Protoss. I've got the big all-in-one, so I have the current stuff for the Terran and Zerg, but going forward, I will be getting a box of the new Protoss Starter, the one with the Stalkers. And 2 Immortals, upgraded Marines seem super powerful. Yeah, I'm yet to actually play the game. I was waiting for the physical copy of the rulebook so I could actually go through. This month, I don't really have time, so it's going to be September. I've got time to actually go through everything. Obviously, my main focus at the minute is to build all of those and paint them all for various videos for you guys. That's my main focus. Once I've got through this, I have the Orcs that are coming out for 11th edition Warhammer. That's going to be insanity, because I'm going to have to paint up even more miniatures, and Wave 2 coming about the same time. So I I am going to be at the end of sanity with the amount of time that I'm going to be spending working and painting and building. And yeah, but it's worth it because I think, again, I have a really good orc community as part of the channel as well. The StarCraft community here is growing, which is fantastic. As we hit September and going forward, I'm aiming to hit a roughly 50-50 split. Might not be every week, but a roughly 50-50 split between Warhammer content and StarCraft content. And we'll also have a live stream that will be like updates combining a little bit of both. So certainly I'm trying to cater to both ends. There is crossover, obviously. There are people that play both and enjoy both. But for people that do like StarCraft, you'll always have something to come back to. For people that just like Warhammer, again, you'll always have something on here that is catered for you. Let me just go through the comments again. Upgraded Marine seems super powerful and love that color of armor. So just for you, Addison, this is Gauntlet Gold, Color Forge spray can. It has been shaded with Citadel's Drakenhof Nightshade. He is going to have ceramic details on him if I have time. If not, the golden look is still pretty cool and certainly something I can then go back to later when I have more time. I'm very much so concentrating on getting the whole army to a standard, and then we can work on details thereafter, because all of these miniatures will be available for a Protoss Army showcase, which will also include, and I want to kind of do him in like a 4 or 5 hour painting challenge as well for Zeratul. So Zeratul will be part of a separate video. For this, he's just a bit of a background, like pretty looking thing. We do have a completed Zeratul, which is the easiest Zeratul in the world to paint, with his glowing green blade. So it's the only thing you can see. And if you have seen his miniature prior, we've added some green moss contrast onto the stonework. It is subtle from here. You certainly need some relatively decent backlighting, and the light is more aimed at me than the miniatures. But certainly going with the terrain set that we get in the 2-player starters, that's going to all have like little mossy details in there. Again, StarCraft seems to be full of life versus Warhammer, which is devoid of life. So this is less grim, dark, more, gritty, but still not that level of disgustingness. I assume you'll be getting Stalkers. Are you going to paint them gold as well? If I get Stalkers, which I'm getting the Immortals, Stalkers would be almost like a personal purchase, and it would be later down the line. At the minute, I have so much to work on and paint that unless, again, I would have to have more income coming through for me to justify it for the channel at the minute. So Stalkers, probably not this year, maybe December into January when I've got a bit more time and a bit more money. Immortals, absolutely. I'm going to get an Immortal, I'm going to get a Siege Tank, and I'm going to get a Ravager, all of which I love the look of. I'm not going to get the new Zeratul because, again, I've just got this Zeratul and I'm really happy with the posing and stuff like that. And the other Zeratul is going to be available forever, so I can get him if I really want to at another point. In terms of how I would paint the Stalkers, I would paint them that dark blue, that purplish bluey hue. Again, like the face cloth in like a purple for the helmet, all that kind of stuff. I really like the idea that is it Tal'Darim or is it Nezarine that is the Zeratul's faction? I forget. I've not played the game in a couple of months. But for me, I like the differential between the two. So you have like all of your Golden Armada, you have your Sons of Ire, and then you have, the ones that forsaken the Kala. And I like the idea that the Dark Brethren are always in like different color schemes, so that the two don't look like they are perfectly mixed together, but they fight together for a similar cause. I like that side of the story. Hello, Starry Night. Nezarine, thank you. It's weird. When I click on your thing, it says disagree, and then it says Nezarine. So I don't know if that's like an autocorrect thing, but yeah, Nerazim. Thank you. So yeah, I would love them to be separate factions. And again, when you start expanding out your forces and you have more Dark Templar and stuff like that, Dark Archon, you kind of want that separation where they feel like a different force if you just want to play them. However, I'm not going to yuck anyone's yum. If you want to paint them as golden troops, it wouldn't surprise me if, the Protoss race came together, and when these are getting manufactured in Aya, that they would do it again in gold. So you can do that however you wish. There is no right or wrong with it. Again, it's how you want your miniatures to be painted, how you want them to be perceived, and what you enjoy the most. That, again, is always going to be more important than me, some random YouTuber, telling you what I think is the best for you, which is not how I run things. My knowledge on the world of StarCraft is very limited right now. I'm liking the look of the Protoss guys, though. Hopefully I can get myself a demo game in soon. If you need a little bit of lore, I've done 2 lore primers. We're talking, I think it's like 6 to 8 minutes of lore between the Terran and the Zerg. It is just me to camera for the Zerg one, but for the Terran one, there's a little bit of B-roll as well. Then I go into the art books. So right in front of me right now is the Art of StarCraft. I have the Art of StarCraft Heart of the Swarm, and I have the field manual. And I go through all of those books so that you can see a bit of the world. And then we go into the field manual so you can see the miniatures that are coming and some of the nice details about those miniatures. There is like annotations from a Terran Marine of like, oh yeah, Hydralisk, yeah, I kicked one of those in the face. There's all these little bits. It's really interesting. So feel free whenever you get a chance to go on and just have a look and see if that lore helps you decide which faction you prefer. I've not done the Protoss one yet. Again, my time is limited. The Terran video did okay. The Zerg video didn't, and it kind of like made me have to focus on Warhammer a bit more. Whilst I get towards monetization, then I can be a little less selective as I build up my watch hours. Today is a very special day. I have made the YouTube partner program, or I've certainly been able to apply for YouTube partner program. So all that kind of stuff is really, really cool for me. Certainly, it's been 8 months of hard work. However, there are like changes when you get past monetization where, you don't have to focus on building up this minimum amount to get into the program. So now I can sort of relax a little bit more and have a bit more fun with, again, I'm obviously having fun with what I'm making, but I mean in terms of like I can make more niche content and not feel like it's detracting from progress. All that being said, I'm going to have a drink. It is really hot. The current temperature update is 31.2 degrees. I have not left this room. The oxygen is like fire. That's better. Right. We have 2 more zealots to shade up. Once we've done the zealots, we're on to the adepts. Once we've shaded everything up, just so you want to follow how we're painting these, we're then going to go on to Liberator Gold, and we're going to dry brush that on relatively lightly. We are going to cover any of the clear plastics, and if it is too much to get access to those areas without, touching gold onto the clear plastics, we're either going to go to a smaller brush or we're going to do it by hand with like edge detailing. There we go. Words are hard at the minute. Let's have a look. So I have to jump off a meeting. No worries, Addison. Don't worry about that. You go do what you need to do. Loving the content though. I'm looking forward to watching this later. Keep it up. Thank you. Honestly, I really appreciate all the support from all of you for watching as well. It doesn't go unnoticed from me just how blessed and lucky I feel that this channel is being a nice beacon for people to come to, and we have an amazing community that's growing here. I say this every live stream because I want to see more people posting there. We have a community tab if you go onto my channel, and you can post images there in the same way that you would do to like Instagram. And I genuinely want to see your progress. I don't care if it's StarCraft or Warhammer or any other game for that matter. We have Hoot, who posts like Legion, Star Wars Legion. I want to see what you guys are working on, because for me, I don't spend much time on my socials outside of work. So having access to seeing what you guys are working on is really cool. And a lot of you guys are working on some amazing projects. We actually have someone that's working on an amazing diorama at the minute. So go check out their diorama. It's between 2 Blood Angels and a new Orc Big Boss. It looks fantastic. Like, the setting that he's built is really freaking cool. All right, let me catch back up again. I painted my Stalkers gold. Well, my version, which is Zealot Yellow Speed Paint from Army Painter. Yeah, but again, absolutely fine. We all have different preferences. I mean, I'm even tempted with the Sentries to do like flashes of blue in the... Let me actually bring it up so you can see it. In, you know, like the Egyptian style hats, and they have like the varying color differential there. Just get my head out of the way. Can you see that? Little gradations on... So it keeps picking up my head. Downside of using iPhone. So you see those little bits on there. I'm tempted to vary those from blue and gold. Again, just to add a bit of color and a bit of pop in there. I'm also tempted to do teal for my Terrans. Sorry, for my Protoss. Because again, we go back to like the days of like Felix, and my multiplayer color was always teal. But also I do like blue for Protoss as well. And I know with things like the Adepts, they look really cool with blue. So I've got a few decisions to make as I get along with this challenge. Back again. Hey again, Jack. Yeah, I did say goodbye to you. Don't worry. How was your ice cream? Sorry if I miss anything. Got you muted while I film and edit. Yeah, no worries. Don't worry about it. You do whatever you need to do. If you guys have to go and things like that, don't worry. It's fine. I'm looking to finish up shortly anyway. Although, as any of you have seen, my 1 hour became an hour and a half, became 2 hours. But at the minute, I'm still working on shading these miniatures. So my next update when I need to stop the live stream is basically when all of these are shaded. I then have to do my B-roll footage of these miniatures. I will then discuss what has happened for the people that are watching the video that are not on the live stream. And then I will, like, when I do my edit, I will insert shots from these miniatures. So any of you guys that watch anything that I do, obviously my style is, especially with these speed challenges, I'm not shooting all the time. I'm not doing 12 hours of footage because that would be insane. I'm describing the stage that I'm doing and then the next stage that I'm going on to, and I'm basically taking footage whilst that process occurs so that when you guys are listening to me talk about it, you're not just looking at this, you can actually see what's going on. You know, it's a traditional style of doing things. So, yeah, my next stopping point when I genuinely have to stop this stream is when we click over to these being finished and I have to record something. At that point, we do have a little opportunity to maybe come back in later on in the challenge, but I also don't want to spoil the results for you guys. Obviously, the things like the basing's done, but I don't think you're going to watch my video just for my basing. But I do want you to be able to actually come in, watch the video, and, you know, enjoy the end results and have a little bit of a surprise there. So I don't want to necessarily come back on too late if I do come back on. If I do, it would be possibly at the stage where I'm doing like the basic colors. But even that, yeah, we'll see. We'll see. Either way, I think this has gone on for quite a long time, and hopefully you've all got a lot out of this as well. We're still going on, though. We're not stopping just yet. Sorry if I missed anything. You've got through that. I'm very excited for the sub-factions. Can't wait to play Nova's Covert Ops, however it turns out. Yeah, I'm looking forward to Ghosts more than anything. I do love that they are doing the whole style with sub-factions. I think going forward, it's going to be a really nice way to play different armies in different styles using the miniatures that you already have. I think this is one of the advantages Archon really wants to push. Again, it's a bit like if you played Space Marines, you could play your Blood Angels as Dark Angels. Pardon me. You would just say that this Mephiston is very clearly, you know, whatever their librarian's called, Azrael, or is Azrael the chapter master? Anyway, get an idea. You can use these miniatures for different purposes, but for StarCraft specifically, the miniatures don't really change that much. It's just like the heroes that change more. Fair enough. With is it the Tal'Darim that are the Protoss that are following Amon? If it is, then they have a really cool color scheme of like black and red. They look sick. Like that's a fairly big differential to go. They're Tal'Darim. Can't wait for the Terran nukes and how they're going to implement that. I can't see them doing it. If they do it, it's an end game. It's like, I'm sick of playing now. I'm nuking the board. Because a nuke going off for StarCraft is like the entire board space of the game that we currently have. So I don't know how they'll do that. If they do it, I think it would be silly, but do you know what? Why not? Screw it. We end the game. We all burn in fire. Literally, it would be mad to do, but they're going to do it. So I had a Cadbury's button one. Oh, yeah, I know what you mean. Lasted about 8 minutes in the garden. I had to come back in. Yeah, Sarah's already been out and cooked herself to a crisp. Tal'Darim follows Amon. Thank you. I think when I was doing the Zerg lore, I kept on tripping up remembering who Amon is. Obviously in the edit it's fine, but I kept on like going, I remember him from the game. And I was literally playing Wings of Liberty as I was doing like the lore primer for the Terrans. So I wanted to get like the footage whilst I was going along, so that there was a bit more B-roll there, which wasn't the best for what we were doing. I don't think it cut that well, but hey ho. It's the joys of not having miniatures. Now we have miniatures. I could probably do the Protoss far better just because I have more control over what I'm doing. With the Zerg, obviously the Zerg history and the Protoss history, they're not directly linked, but they are very similarly linked in that try to remember the name of them, Xel'Naga, they originally created like the Protoss as like the perfect race. And obviously the Protoss are not the perfect race. And they ended up rebelling against the Xel'Naga because, you know, who wants to be a slave to the system, said the Necron tier to the Catan. There we go. Words. So the Zerg were like a happy accident that the Xel'Naga came across, and they went, oh, these guys mutate really quickly and they pick on like really positive traits. We can control them. So they made the ultimate weapon. So it's a bit like the orcs and the elves. Kind of. I think orcs are more like Terrans in the way that they act and play. But in terms of like the lore, the old ones created the Eldar to fight the Necrons, and they were designed as like the perfect psionic race, psychic race. The orcs were designed as the ultimate weapon. And obviously when you have 12-meter tall giant green things wearing, you know, 2-inch thick plate armor that resist Gauss weapons, yeah, they're pretty powerful. The Protoss were designed to be the perfect psionic race. And the Zerg were psionically influenced, and they had psionic presence with like the Overmind, and then subjugated all of the creatures under it. But they were designed to evolve into the perfect species. And the Overmind, after they overthrew Amon, who again was doing shenanigans, found out that the Protoss existed through his memories, and this was the perfect race, and they knew that they could never defeat the Protoss in their current state. They had to evolve and become stronger and stronger and stronger. But they wanted to merge with the Protoss, and it was their one driven goal, was to create essentially what ended up being like the hybrid. So I really like the way that the lore kind of is similar to what we see with Warhammer, but obviously it's StarCraft-fied. significantly less grimdark, although lots of atrocities and lots of war crimes. So a little bit like Warhammer. But yeah, the idea of like the Xel'Naga being the old ones, and then like this inevitable end to the universe that, you know, the likes of Zeratul is willing to sacrifice himself for. Right, where was I? Subfaction is going to be amazing for variety. Someone who likes the fit between different playstyles. I'm excited for that more than anything else, I think. Yeah, we're lucky in that this game hasn't been developed by someone who saw Blizzard as a cash cow and goes, oh yeah, cool, I can make lots of money making this StarCraft game. The joys with Archon, the joys with Yarrick, Wojtek, I remembered. Things with Yarrick is he looks at this as his passion project, which for anyone that's designing a game, if they can look at it from a player's perspective and like a fan's perspective first, and then, yeah, sure, they might make a little bit of money off of it. My fan has just died. I'm going to have to go charge my fan up. But yeah, anyone that can look at it from a fan's perspective and not just I'm going to make lots of money off of this thing and you're all going to pay for it, then we're winning. At the end of the day, the worst case scenario for us is that StarCraft was made by someone like EA and they look at you as a microtransaction cash cow. Instead, we've got someone that goes, you don't need to buy more miniatures. You have to buy miniatures from us. Buy them from your indies. Get your discounts. And we just want you to enjoy the game. We want to have fun. We want to bring the game that you all anticipated to come to the tabletop to be the way that you expected it to play. I think they've done an amazing job. I'm just going to quickly charge this fan up. My cable is just there. But yeah, the second this fan has stopped, I am now dying. This heat is ridiculous. We are currently at still 31.2 degrees. Without a fan, that feels gopping, which is a nice word to say. Disgusting. Right, that is now going on charge, and I think I can have it on fan speed 1. This is fun. I will soon take a break. I do need one, and I do need more water, and I need more ice cubes. My missus has been sat in the sun for a solid 4 hours, and she doesn't even look warm. I can't stand it unless there's a pool and plenty of beer. So, yeah, I think Sarah would cook to a crisp if she was out for 4 hours. She doesn't tan very well, bless her. But yeah, I tend to like immediately like brown off. Like, you want to see a terrible tan line? You can tell that I don't like not wear a t-shirt, but I brown off really nicely. I don't like burn. I don't burn so much. This pastiness would absolutely burn to a crisp, but the rest of me is reasonably good at dealing with sunlight. I'm not a vampire. I am not a vampire. Right. Where was I going with all of this anyway? I think I got sidetracked by the StarCraft history, which feel free to clip that. That would be a useful clip for people to have like quick access to StarCraft knowledge without having to get bogged down in 3 hours of content. But yeah, the Protoss are a really freaking cool race. The Terran will probably still be my main army. The reason why I'm doing the Protoss now is they are obviously the smallest, and I've only got today off. So my edit is going to literally be the early hours of the morning going into tomorrow. I'm going to try to get this cut together for tomorrow evening. I can't make any promises because I just have so little time. And even once I get the thing exported, if I'm at work exporting it, it takes roughly 2 hours to export a 13 gigabyte video, which, depending on what time of day I finish the edit, is also not a guarantee. Worst case scenario, it will be Saturday, and I would gladly stay up all of Friday night until 2-3 o'clock in the morning if I have to so that this video goes out for Saturday, first thing in the morning in the UK time. So very much so, my mind is set on getting these videos out for you all, especially because I know the US might not think it, but because the Europeans have had this for, a few weeks, I feel late to the game from a content creation side of things. Obviously, whether I am or not is a debatable thing, but certainly I don't want to be delivering these videos and then, we end up with no one actually enjoying them or seeing them because the game has been out a little while and people have, already found their communities, and then, the YouTube side of things becomes a bit of a struggle. So I very much so want to produce really good videos for you all, but I want them to be, received and enjoyed, not just sat there doing nothing. Which so far I've been very, very lucky. I think I've been finding the right communities and everyone's been enjoying the videos so far, which is all I can really ask for from a content creation side of things. And I'll always be, open and honest about all of these things. If you do have any questions about my process or anything like that, feel free to ask me in the chat. I'm, again, a bit of an open book. I don't really have any secrets or anything like that. And at the end of the day, we're all here for the same reason. We all love the hobby, so the more of us that can enjoy it, the better. And certainly I want to be able to be doing this for years and years and years to come. So hopefully my videos have been living up to all of your expectations. I certainly try to deliver on them. Right, so we have, after this, one more Zealot to go. Then we're on to the Adepts. God, I can feel the heat on my face. That is disgusting heat. Oh, geez. Good thing that I'm not a fainter, because weaker men will have fallen from this. Just at some point, yeah, an air conditioning unit could probably come in quite handy. Right. So what projects are people working on whilst they wait for their StarCraft? Just so you guys can actually talk to me. Because outside of this, I'm still working on my Horus Heresy Blood Angels. I won't have time for them until probably October, November. But I had a really good start on them. I've currently got a pledge to get 2,000 points of, oh no, did I say 1,000? 1,000 points of Horus Heresy painted, 1,000 points of Warhammer 40k painted, which, to be fair, I'm already 680 points into that because, Space Marines and the new 11th edition. But yeah, very much so trying to actually paint my armies and not just let them sit gathering dust, which, as we all know, is very difficult to do because so much new stuff comes out and it's always cool. But we have to try. I'm not sure if I'm pulling the trigger on this game just yet. There's a lot I like about it, though. Currently adding to my 40k Blood Angels collection at the moment. Yeah, at some point I am also due to do a Blood Angels 40k army showcase. I also obviously have my Heresy Blood Angels as well. Obviously, the Blood Angels that I have, I've collected Blood Angels since I think it was like 4th edition. They were amongst my first set of armies, as were Ultramarines. So I used to just like repaint my miniatures, but when I started collecting Blood Angels just before they got their, I think it was their 5th edition codex. But when they got like all the new miniatures like Sanguinary Guard and stuff like that, I was just like enamored by them. So I have lots of old miniatures. In fact, my old Sanguinary Guard are now my Heresy Sanguinary Guard. So I had to do like helmet swaps. I have a Blood Angel showcase out at the minute, but it is an old style video. Not my favorite. The old Ultramarines video is a lot better. But if you do like Blood Angels and you just want to see a few of mine painted up, I have a few of my like Heresy special miniatures. It's right at the very back of the videos that are available at the moment. But it is out there if you want to have a look. In terms of if you like Blood Angels and then you want to come to this game offers something that Warhammer doesn't do, both in terms of gameplay and in terms of miniature design. I haven't built the Terrans yet, so I'm only speaking from the site of the Zerg and the Protoss, which obviously are more heavily using the clear plastics. But the way that those clear plastics change the way the miniature looks is amazing. So if you wanted something different to paint, you don't have to start up a full collection. Don't feel like you need a full army of them. But go out and get yourself some Zerglings or some Zealots or some Terran Marines and add some like special effects to them, because they obviously have the various orange clear plastics that are there to show explosions and rounds going off and stuff like that. There's a lot to them that Warhammer I don't think is going to be brave enough to try. And certainly, if Warhammer wanted to do clear miniatures, they could do that. If they wanted to do special effects for their miniatures, again, we have seen more recently, they have done opaque plastics for things like Wazdaka Gutsmeg, where he's got his big plume coming out of the back of his bike. So they are starting to try and practice some new things, which I do appreciate. But they're not at this level of, offerings. Equally, the gameplay side of things, Warhammer is far more of a sit and wait. Yes, you've got reactions, but for a war game, it is, I'm going to do all of my things, and then you're going to do all of your things, and then we're going to swap. So this is more like Kill Team, in that you've got alternating activations, so you're never sat around doing anything, doing nothing, or waiting to possibly do a reaction if it fits. Like Warhammer's solution with reactions is better than nothing, but I don't think it's like the most engaging gameplay. This is very much so more a case of you're going to have a lot of fun trying to mess up your opponent's plan immediately after they're like trying to make moves. You can screw up each other's days very quickly, and the way that even like your supply works as well. You're not just going on the board with your full army, you're going on the board with a part of your army. So there's a lot to love about the gameplay side of it, and there's a lot to love about the miniature side of it as well. So I wouldn't look at it as a competitor, despite the fact obviously it's competing for your money. It's very much so a very different style of playing and building and painting. And if you want that challenge, I think you'll have the best of time with it. I think the miniatures are worth their weight in gold. I mean, not this gold, obviously. That's just a can of spray paint. I mean, like proper gold. But even like the details on these, because when I was unboxing the Protoss, yes, the miniatures look cool because I can see a Protoss's head and I can see the detail in the braids, but in the armor, you couldn't see anywhere near as much of the detail that actually exists there as when I primed it. And now that I'm adding in the shade, you can really see that detail pop through. So they are fantastically designed miniatures. Obviously, the team that did the miniatures for the promo shots and stuff like that did everything in non-metallic metal, which is great and fancy and delightful. But again, it doesn't show you or show off every aspect of like detail in these things, because you just get distracted by shiny madness. This is beautifully detailed. And again, a metallic paint just brings out so much of the reflections in there, the shape to a lot of the materials. This is a lot of curved materials. Again, the Protoss are more like Eldar, whereas your Terrans are obviously equivalent of Space Marines, and so the armor reflects it. This is very ornate styles of armor, which, to be fair, is quite akin to what you'd expect with Blood Angels. If Blood Angels had the update that they deserved, where the miniatures have the correct amount of ornate designs and stuff. Instead, we have, you can paint your Space Marine red. Honestly, 5th edition Blood Angels was peak Blood Angels. Every miniature felt like a very special miniature, whereas now they've just dropped off quite a lot because we don't have any special minis. Yes, we have Sanguinary Guard, but even our Sanguinary Guard are nowhere near as regal as they used to be. It is a shame. Whoever designed the current Blood Angels style is just, I mean, let's be honest, he's a heretic. And we need our wonderful Astaroth the Grim. All the characters, by the way, the character work is amazing. It's just the regular miniatures that I mean as well. We need Astaroth the Grim, though, to come up and give them telling to. We deserve better. I mean, we are not just Space Marines painted red. Right, that is the last Zealot shaded there. So again, when we come into the dry brush for all these details that we're half covering up with a shade are going to then pop again. We end up with some awesome looking miniatures. So you've been watching me paint him. Let me actually show you this guy. There we go. You can just see the amount of detail in there. Even the psionic blades, they're clear and they're probably harder to see for you guys. But the detail of the flame effects in there is bonkers. And they're stupidly sharp. They're too sharp. The end points are literally daggers. It is a weapon of self-defense if you require one. I've pretty much got my first 1,000 points for Ultramarines painted. Well done. And my Repulsor, Dreadnought, and Guilliman are... And when my Repulsor, Dreadnought, and Guilliman are done, I'll be well on my way to 2k points. Yeah, and the joys is obviously with Warhammer, and certainly I'm sure with StarCraft as well, 2,000 points is obviously an army that you can then play a 2,000 point game with, but you want to expand it more and more and more anyway, because you want the options. You want to play about with different styles and different themes and all that kind of stuff. And then you end up with 9,000 points of Space Marines. It's good fun. Pull the trigger on StarCraft, Lee. Do it. Yeah, Lee. Come on, Lee. Have I not sold it well enough to you? Jesus Christ. No, I think this game sells itself. And don't pressure yourself to purchase anything yet. This game's out for a long time. When you have that pull, that urge, and you think, yeah, go on then. I'll have a try. Go for it. I think you'll love it. I think this is one of the best war games out there. Now, before I shade up the adepts, I'm just going to quickly check the painting that they've done on the box here, just so I can figure out how I am going to paint them. Just try and get that. I've got things in the way there. There we go. So I'm just going to have a quick little look at this. So I can see where they've got gold and where they've gone to blue. I presume the inside is going to be blue as well. There are certain elements as well for the adepts where I'm going to have to paint a bit of gold on, because the clear plastic is in place just so that it can glue on in lieu of the opaque plastics. So there is elements of even the clear stuff that you still need to paint up if you want to do it properly. I say properly, you know what I mean. I love the pylon though. The detail work they've done on that is incredible. And yeah, I'm going to be copying quite a bit of that design style. Again, whether I go for blue or teal, we're going to find out. Sons of Horus Green is one of my favorite teals. I just think it looks freaking awesome. And all of the Heresy miniatures painted in Sons of Horus Green makes me really like them, but I hate them because Horus. One of my marker boxes fell out there. I almost stopped it from dropping, and then that fell out. Ta-da. Right. I am going to get on with these adepts, but I'm going to do it off stream now because it is boiling hot. I need that to charge up so it works better. And equally, I need something to eat and some more water. So it seems like a good time to call it quits there. Thank you to everyone that stuck on. I will just read the last few comments. Oh, I'm sure random people on the internet will push me. We 100% will, but don't do it. Don't bend to peer pressure. You know that you want StarCraft, and that's the thing. And that's why you're here. So you've only got to ask yourself, what wouldn't you do for Aya? Yeah. Thank you all for watching. Honestly, this has been lovely just to have a couple of hours, again, back and forthing whilst getting through these. I'm going to go finish these off now. Don't think it's worth doing another live stream just because I don't want to spoil the ending. But I'm going to do every effort to try and get this done early so that I can start editing it earlier and then have it out for Friday. Again, the time I'm not entirely sure on just yet. If you're on any of the Discords, be it my own personal one, which you can get access to with Patreon down below, that's enough shilling, as well as the Archon Discord or the Starcraft UK TMG group as well. I'll post anything into the self-promos of those videos, of those channels, apart from my own, which is announcements. Oh, God, it is boiling hot in here. In fact, my fan's not even facing me. That's moved. It slid off and then stopped facing me. Life is cruel. Yeah, have yourselves a wonderful day, a wonderful evening. Enjoy the sunshine if you're out in the UK. It is boiling hot. Have the best of it before we get rain all next week. And I will see you all for hopefully Friday's, if not Saturday's video. Take care for now.